The story of Joseph in Egypt like you've never seen it complete. The story of Joseph in Egypt is one of the most fascinating in the Bible. It is filled with exciting moments and important lessons. I'm going to tell you this story in an easy-to-understand way, as if we were having a conversation. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, take this moment to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any new content. Joseph was Jacob's favorite son, also known as Israel, and Rachel, his beloved wife. Jacob had a special affection for Joseph, which led to jealousy among his 11 older brothers, who were the children of Jacob with other women. Joseph was especially cherished because he was the son of Jacob's great love, Rachel, who unfortunately died giving birth to Benjamin, Joseph's younger brother. Joseph grew up in a family where sibling rivalry was strong. Jacob's favoritism toward Joseph only worsened things. When Joseph was born, Jacob saw him as a blessing, especially because Rachel had spent many years unable to have children. To show how much he loved Joseph, Jacob gave him a colorful coat, which was a very special gift at the time. But this gesture made Joseph's brothers even more envious. When Joseph was young, he had two dreams that changed everything. In the first dream, he and his brothers were in the field tying bundles of wheat. Suddenly, Joseph's bundle stood upright while the bundles of his brothers bowed down to it. This seemed to indicate that one day Joseph would be more important than his brothers. In the second dream, Joseph saw the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowing down to him. He told these dreams to his family, and they understood that the sun represented Jacob, the moon was Rachel, and the stars were his brothers, suggesting that one day everyone would bow down to Joseph. These dreams only fueled his brothers' anger and jealousy. They didn't like the idea of having to bow down to Joseph one day. And so, Joseph's story began to take unexpected turns. One day, Jacob asked Joseph to go to the field to see how his brothers were doing. When Joseph's brothers saw him coming from a distance, they started to plot something terrible. They said, "Here comes the dreamer," and decided to get rid of him. However, Reuben, one of the brothers, suggested that they shouldn't kill him but throw him into a pit instead. Hours later, while they were eating, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites passing by. That's when they came up with the idea to sell Joseph as a slave. Joseph was taken to Egypt, far from his family and everything he knew. To deceive Jacob, the brothers stained Joseph's coat with blood and, when they returned home, told their father that a wild beast had attacked and killed Joseph. Jacob was inconsolable for a long time. After being sold as a slave, Joseph ended up in the house of Potiphar, an important official of Pharaoh. Even as a foreigner in a strange land, Joseph didn't let the difficulties get him down. He worked with such dedication and honesty that he soon gained Potiphar's trust, who put him in charge of his entire household. Joseph became the chief steward, managing everything that happened there. But this rise did not go unnoticed. Besides arousing envy among the other servants, he also caught the attention of Potiphar's wife, who tried to seduce him. Joseph, true to his values and knowing he could not betray Potiphar's trust, rejected her advances. One day, Potiphar's wife tried to grab him forcefully, but Joseph managed to escape, leaving his garment behind. Feeling humiliated, she decided to take revenge and accused Joseph of trying to assault her. When Potiphar heard the accusation, he was furious and had Joseph imprisoned. It was a terrible injustice for someone who had only shown virtue and integrity. In prison, Joseph faced great challenges, but his faith in God and his integrity remained strong. He didn't let himself be discouraged. Instead, he started helping the other prisoners, always showing compassion and kindness. His attitude caught the attention of the jailer, who soon entrusted him with important responsibilities within the prison. Joseph excelled there, gaining everyone's trust and showing that, even in the worst situations, it is possible to maintain faith and hope. While in prison, Joseph discovered that he had a special gift from God, the ability to interpret dreams. During his time in prison, he met two important men, Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker, who were troubled by mysterious dreams they had. With divine help, Joseph was able to uncover the meaning of these dreams, revealing what would happen in the future. The cupbearer told Joseph about a dream in which he saw a vine with 3 branches that produced grapes, which he turned into wine to serve Pharaoh. The baker shared his dream, where he carried baskets of bread on his head, but the breads were devoured by birds. With the wisdom God had given him, Joseph explained that in 3 days, the cupbearer would be restored to his position in the palace, while the baker, unfortunately, would be executed. And, as Joseph had predicted, everything happened exactly as he had said. The cupbearer was restored to his position, and the baker was executed. Despite his ability to interpret dreams helping these two men, Joseph remained in prison for a time. However, this episode was significant because it connected Joseph to Pharaoh, opening doors for the future. After years of injustice and suffering in prison, Joseph had the chance to change his life. Pharaoh of Egypt had a dream that deeply disturbed him, and none of his advisors could interpret it. That's when the cupbearer remembered Joseph and his gift. Joseph was summoned to Pharaoh's presence and humbly said that the interpretation of dreams came from God. Pharaoh shared his dreams. 7 thin cows devoured 7 fat cows, and 7 withered ears of grain swallowed 7 full and healthy ears. With God's help, Joseph explained that these dreams were a warning that Egypt would have 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of severe famine. He suggested that Pharaoh appoint someone wise to store up food during the years of plenty, preparing the country for the coming famine. Impressed with Joseph's wisdom, Pharaoh appointed him as governor of all Egypt, entrusting him with managing the harvest and distribution of food to save the nation. Joseph finally achieved a position of great power, becoming the governor of Egypt. This not only changed his life, but also brought a new chapter for Egypt and his own people. The gift God gave him, the ability to interpret dreams, not only freed him from prison, but also helped save many lives during the difficult years to come. When Joseph became governor, Pharaoh gave him a new Egyptian name, Zaphenath-Paneah, which means savior of the land. This name symbolized his new position of authority and his importance in Egyptian culture. Additionally, Joseph also started a family in Egypt, marrying Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On. Together, they had 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. The names of his sons carried deep meanings. Manasseh, which means God has made me forget all my troubles, reflects how Joseph overcame his hard times. Ephraim, which means God has made me fruitful in the land of my suffering, shows how he was blessed even amid adversity. After 7 years of abundance, as Joseph had predicted, Egypt faced a severe famine. During this time, Joseph demonstrated his leadership skills, ensuring that food was stored and distributed fairly, saving Egypt and neighboring countries from starvation. Meanwhile, in Canaan, famine also struck, and Jacob, Joseph's father, sent his other sons to Egypt to buy food. When they arrived, they were brought before Joseph, who was now the governor. Not realizing they were standing before their own brother, Joseph's brothers bowed to him, unknowingly fulfilling the dream Joseph had many years earlier. Joseph recognized them immediately, but concealed his identity to test them and see if they had changed. Joseph accused his brothers of being spies and, to prove their honesty, asked them to bring their youngest brother, Benjamin, to Egypt, while one of them would stay as a hostage. When they returned home, they told Jacob everything, who initially refused to let Benjamin go, fearing he might also be lost as he believed had happened to Joseph. But eventually, the famine forced the brothers to return to Egypt with Benjamin. When Joseph saw his younger brother, he was so emotional that he had to withdraw to avoid crying in front of them. After a feast, he could no longer hide the truth and revealed his identity. The reunion was filled with emotion. Joseph forgave his brothers, saying that everything that happened was part of God's plan to save his family. Joseph then asked his brothers to return to Canaan and bring Jacob and the entire family to live in Egypt. When Jacob learned that Joseph was alive and held such an important position, he was incredulous. But later, he gathered his family and set out for Egypt. Upon arrival, the reunion with Joseph was deeply moving. Father and son embraced and wept together, overjoyed to be reunited after so many years of suffering and separation. This moment marked the restoration of the family and the assurance that God had been caring for them all along. Joseph made sure his father, Jacob, and all his family had a special place to live in Egypt. He chose the land of Goshen, which was very fertile and perfect for them to live well during the coming years of famine. There, Jacob and his family were very happy and prospered, always under Joseph's care and protection, who continued to be an important part of their lives. Joseph's story, as it is in the Bible, is a beautiful lesson in courage, faith, and integrity. Joseph faced many hardships. He was sold as a slave and then unjustly imprisoned. But despite all these trials, he never lost faith in God. He believed that God had a plan for him and continued to trust. And that faith was rewarded when he became a very important person in Egypt. What we can learn from Joseph's story is that even in the most difficult moments, we can find strength and hope in our faith. God is always by our side, ready to help and guide us. Now, I'd like to know what you think about this story. What did you learn from it? Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any updates. Thanks for watching.